All right, guys, welcome back for another video. In today's video, I want to talk about the Bitcoin macro chart in relation to this very significant level being the all-time high from the previous cycle. But first, I want to talk about some of the accumulation patterns of the biggest Bitcoin whale in the space if you separate for exchanges and centralized organizations. This guy called it out here on Twitter. Props to this guy, Watcher Guru. He's saying the world's largest non-exchange Bitcoin whale purchased 3,529 BTC in June and is now holding a total of 132,189 BTC, worth 2.51 billion. This is a whale who is anonymous. Right? He has more. This is actually more Bitcoin than MicroStrategy holds with Michael Saylor, and nobody knows who this is. But it is the largest whale in Bitcoin. And I actually went a little bit further in and tracked some of the movements of this whale on the on-chain data. And here you can see his accumulation pattern. So here is so you've got the balance in BTC of the whale here. So that's the blue line right there. And then his USD balance is in red. And then the Bitcoin price is in the gray line down below. So you can see how, roughly in his accumulation, you wouldn't nearly think this, but the accumulation is pretty steady and pretty consistent with a few minor alterations, specifically right here as well. But for the most part, it's a major accumulation. And interestingly, you wouldn't think this, but the USD balance, is roughly mirrors the price of Bitcoin, which I guess makes sense if he's doing a steady accumulation. But I think the point here to point out is that this whale has been accumulating pretty aggressively through the major downturn. I mean, the market's been brutal during the from late April to currently in early July. And but this whale has just been accumulating. You can see these different purchases here in the month of June, late May. So this whale is not distributing, and juxtapose that with the idea that what we talked about in the on-chain capitulation. You have the highest realized losses at any point in Bitcoin's history, and if you've been on Twitter, you know how bearish the sentiment is. So juxtapose that with what the biggest whale in Bitcoin is doing, and making these purchases, accumulating. It's a different perspective. And it's a different perspective than, what people who are in a fearful state of mind may say. They say, everybody's dumping, everybody's distributing. Well, there are some pretty large entities besides Michael Saylor or individuals making significant accumulation drives. Anyway, going back to current price action, I want to talk about the current price action in the context of the previous all-time high. So you have the 2017 all-time high from the last cycle in Bitcoin on Bitfinex, roughly at 20,000. And I just want to examine the current price action in the context of that previous all-time high. So right here you can see, price does set in a swing low at that level. Again, it doesn't operate directly there. I mean, it does kind of push off, but then, pushes through a little bit, but puts in a swing low here. And now price is doing a little bit of a retracement off that level. If we put a 618 right here, you can see prices run down to the 618. Now, I know a lot of people, this is a classic area. You've got confluence from your macro time frame down to your 4-hour time frame, and maybe even on the 15-minute. What would have to happen on the 15-minute to, well, really, you would just need a break above these highs right here, roughly, on a 15-minute to get up there. But, you've got these different levels of confluence, prices coming back, bouncing off the all-time high, running into a 618, and you get a further confirmation taking out these low time frame highs right here. That's not an area I'd be looking to get short in. That would be an area I'd be looking to buy. Now, I know a lot of people will say, there's so much going on in the macro. It's a new monetary regime. There's just too much going on. that's a fair point. But again, price is price. If there's not a technical reason to get into a short, then I can't really justify it. Um, Again, this is really a level in Bitcoin where you know whatever you're trading or however you're trading, you know it would make sense to trade with low risk, just because volatility has been insane recently, and if you're worried about that volatility continuing to expand, then the most logical decision is to just reduce your risk. Uh, Now, this level would, for me personally, would get really interesting above this 21,000, this high right here, basically the high we saw on June 26th, which was, let's see what day it was, June 26th. Yeah, so Sunday, last Sunday's price action. If we reclaim that level, let's see, that might be a significant level on the weekly. Okay, yeah, so roughly last week's high. If you know if I were in a long position off the 618, I would be taking profit somewhere up here, below that weekly high, just because that's a logical place for price to stop. And again, just to reiterate, I don't necessarily think that price will automatically go up and fill this liquidity. I think a lot of times price will run the liquidity within the range, and then come back and consolidate, and then make a push either up or down for further liquidity. But in this case, yeah, if price ran up to that weekly high, that would be where I'd be, either taking profit on long or looking to open a short. And then if you got a weekly close above last week's weekly high, that would be, then all of a sudden, I'm looking further up towards this level up here. However you trade this as resistance, that would be the area I'd be looking at if we get a weekly close above there. Anyway, I hope you guys like this content. If you like this type of content, just make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you guys in the next upload.